Hey there, I'm Sujay. I'm a partially blind Kenyan with a passion for accessibility in games. Recently, I visited Mexico and I thought I'd make a video sharing my experiences about the whole trip. Keep in mind that these are my experiences and opinions, and different people will have different opinions, obviously. The trip was roughly about 3 weeks, from Nairobi to London and then London to Cancun. At Cancun, we were in a place called Riviera de Maya for like a week for the wedding. After that, we were in Merida for 3 nights where we did like a lot of touristy stuff, and then another 3 nights in Tulum, after which we boarded a plane and took the same route to come back. Generally speaking, the place felt like a more developed version of Kenya, except that they have really taken a lot of effort in preserving their culture and history. It was super hot. It was 40 degrees centigrade like every day during the day. And despite that, it's like very green where we were. And the place had this vegetation that kind of looked jungly, and even like the savanna looking areas were like greener than what I'm used to seeing. The people there for the most part are quite friendly. They're just a little different with their sense of flexibility. The expectation I had going in was I thought I'd meet a lot of more scammier sort of people. I think I was warned several times about there being a lot of scammers around. And during this whole trip, I think there's probably only one person who I thought was a little sleazy, but everyone was, like I said, very friendly. In terms of food, I was a little disappointed. They had a lot of like red meat and fish, and me having gout, that was all out for me. They did have chicken dishes, but the taste and texture was really different. Everywhere we went, it seemed like they didn't really marinate their meat, so yeah, I'm just not used to that. And also the chicken texture, it's like kind of like stringy and fibrous. So while it goes really well in like a taco, it didn't really taste that good as like just by itself like a breast. There's also a lot of like corn and lemon slices, like, in tequila and stuff like that. It's with every single thing you order, you'll probably get like some lemon. And it seems like corn and lemon are the staples there, according to our guide. In terms of accessibility, it really was a mixed bag. The airport at Cancun is not really low vision friendly, and you will definitely need sighted assistance to navigate your way through. However, it is pretty okay if you're on a wheelchair. The airport staff were ranging from quite helpful to not helpful. You had to actively try and find someone who was helpful in guiding you, or someone who was helpful would probably just see you and help guide you. It was that sort of thing. I should point out that the way the airport is set up is kind of a mess. There's like a lot of movement and a lot of people, and it feels really chaotic. I actually ended up walking into a pillar that was like about 2 meters in diameter. It was like out of nowhere. The first hotel we stayed at was called the Dorado Royale Hotel, and it's part of a 3-hotel resort, and it was huge. I'd say that if you have low vision, you need sighted assistance to help orientate you to where everything is. And if you still have issues with getting around, you could ask the hotel staff, who were very helpful at this place. If you are totally blind, then I would not say that this place is very accessible. It's just so big, and even the facilities that they have there aren't easily accessed. Wheelchair access here was good for the most part, except for like very specific things like the jacuzzis in the rooms. They have stairs to sort of climb into. While we were there for the wedding, before the actual events of the wedding took place, we ended up going to one of the popular pyramid ruins that are sort of relatively close by, called Chichen Itza. If you are planning on going there, just be prepared to walk. Also, if it's hot, make sure you carry a hat and some water. If you're blind or low vision and planning on visiting this site, you're going to need sighted assistance because the area that you'll be walking in will be dirt paths, and it's really difficult to navigate these dirt paths as there are like a lot of obstacles and roots and things like that. Also, if you're in a wheelchair, because of the rough terrain, whoever is handling the wheelchair will have to be really active in avoiding the rocks, the roots, and things that are in the path in general. Merida was the next city we went to, and they touted it as being the safest city in Mexico. It definitely felt safe, and due to its modern nature, it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of accessibility. The city generally is easy to navigate. However, if you are blind or have low vision, there's a lack of pelican crossings as well as clear indicators, so you are going to have trouble navigating and crossing roads. In Merida, I stayed at the hotel called the Hyatt Regency. It was my first time staying in an accessible room. The accessibility room is designed for people with disabilities, and it's a lot more spacious, but they've made some weird choices. The beds in these rooms had these sensor strip lights, where if you move, they detect that you're moving and they just switch on, which were really cool. Even the bathrooms had these light switches that were lit, so they were very easy to find. Unfortunately though, the sinks were a bit weird. There's very little clearance between the tap and the end of the sink, and there are two sinks, both at different heights, and it's like only this much space between the tap and the bottom of the sink. So if you put your hand there, you're not going to be able to like rotate it. You have to like move your hand out and then rotate it and then like do that kind of motion. It was very awkward. Another negative was the showers in this room. It was a telephone type shower, and ours was not maintained well, and it didn't work properly as a result, and that was the only option for having a shower. Also, throughout the hotel, what we were told is all the accessible rooms have two separate beds. None of them have any double beds for some reason. In the end, my wife and I needed to change our room because they weren't able to fix the shower, and we had given them plenty of time to try. From Merida, we ended up going to a pyramid site called Kabah, which is again another ruined city. Unlike Chichen Itza, this place was not as packed with tourists, and it's sort of located on a plateau in this valley, and it's quite unique. Kabah isn't as accessible as Chichen Itza or one of the other sites. There's a lot of ancient architecture, so even if you're a cane user, going up and down the stairs can be quite tricky. There's no handrails or anything like that, and it's all like ancient architecture. So with ancient architecture, they had this weird thing with spacing steps unevenly and things like that. So it is going to be tricky if you have issues with mobility in general. Uxmal was another site that we visited, and this one had a very different sort of pyramid, and even like an ancient palace and like very different ruins. A lot of sections at this site were easy to navigate with a wheelchair, and generally it was a lot more accessible to get around the site. Between Chichen Itza, Kabah, and Uxmal, I'd highly recommend you check out Uxmal. The third place we went to was Tulum, and that place had a completely different vibe from both where we were in Cancun and Merida. It felt like a yoga town. The development in Tulum isn't that great, and so navigating sidewalks and things like that with a cane or a wheelchair are very difficult. Also, crossing the roads here is very tricky, I'd say. In Tulum, we stayed at a place called Zenses Wellness and Yoga Center, and it's sort of like these low-income houses that have been refurbished into like luxury rooms. So you'd have maybe a low-income house that maybe had a family of 4 or 5 people, and it's been completely revamped to house like one luxury room. In terms of wheelchair use, this hotel was not accessible at all, and some of the people I traveled with had to go stay at a different hotel that was a lot more accessible. The staff here were very, very helpful and very accommodating, and they tried to offer suggestions to make things work. One of the incidences we had was all the rooms have these steps to go into the bed, and if you have issues with walking up steps, for example, just getting into bed is going to be tricky. So the staff actually were ready to set up a separate bed like on the floors of the room, but even that was like too difficult for the wheelchair users that we had with us. Unfortunately for me, just before getting to Tulum, I had such a bad stomach bug, and the stomach bug was so bad it just rendered me completely useless for this part of the trip, and I ended up missing out on seeing all the sights in the area. I ended up just chilling at the room. I'd say if you're into like healthy living and looking for that chill yoga vibe, this place is like going to be right up your alley. I'd highly recommend you check it out if you're into that. As for the wedding, everything went really well without any real hitches. It was a huge blast meeting up with all my cousins who I don't get to see very often. Also, I got to meet a lot of my cousins' friends who are quite awesome. If anything, I wish that my time with everyone was just a little longer because it was really fun. The biggest highlights for me during this trip, in terms of sights and just general experiences, was really just seeing the ruins at Uxmal. They were just incredible, and I can't believe I actually got to see these in my life. They're that cool. If you're into like ruins and ancient history and stuff, they're wow. Also, at the Dorado Royale Hotel, they did this show called the Mexican Fiesta show, which is their version of like, you know, the way in Kenya you got all these acrobats and stuff like that, and Maasai dances and that kind of thing. Mexican culture, like just a full-on show with flamenco guitar, dances, and cool stunts. It was just awesome. In terms of would I go again, maybe. It is a very, very, very long flight, and the jet lag this time is probably the worst jet lag I've ever experienced. It was rough. However, those sites were just awesome, and the people there are quite cool, so yeah, maybe I'd go back. I'd definitely stay at the Dorado Royale again. However, the other two, not so much. If you have any questions about my experiences at these places, just leave them in the comments. Anyways, that's it from me. Thanks for watching this. Have fun.